in towns and cities. Rural areas will be well below. And as well as that ice, there is the likelihood of some sleet and snow for southwest England, Wales and the eastern side of England and northern Scotland. Say snow even to lower levels in some locations. As we go through the day, that mixture of rain, sleet and snow will clear the southwest. The showers will ease along the east coast, although there'll always be some. And across northern Scotland, it becomes dry. So for most, it's a dry, fine, sunny day tomorrow. But it will be cold, 3 or 4 degrees at best for most of us. At least the winds, though, will be a little lighter than that biting one that's been blowing through the day today. Then, during tomorrow evening, wet weather returns from the west, and as it hits the colder air, there'll be some snow for a time across Scotland, but even also further south over parts of England and Wales. It could, for a few hours, be a little bit of snow, mostly through the night, however. Perhaps early on Friday across East Anglia and the southeast, and quite quickly any snow will melt and turn back to rain. Quite a grey day then on Friday across the south. Rain clearing, but another spell of rain arriving in the southwest. Further north, though, Friday looks like a bright day with sunny spells and just a few showers, and turning milder across the south.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of 2 wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else. I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
No spin, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton. Tonight, after that GB News World exclusive interview, there's no question in my mind that Donald Trump can be president again, but does he really want it? The man who made it all happen, GB News star Nigel Farage, takes us behind the scenes at Mar-a-Lago and reveals what went on when the cameras were off shortly. I'll break down why a Trump comeback should have Liberals shaking in their boots all the way up to 2024 in a special digest, before I get the reaction of my superstar panel, the Daily Mail columnist Amanda Platal, co-founder of Conservatives Against Racism for Equality, Albiam Ancona, and political commentator Daisy McAndrew. Then, in the clash, would a second Trump presidency be a good thing? And the Donald's Corner has former press secretary Sean Spicer. And he's not the only member of Trump's inner circle we'll be hearing from tonight. 45's former advisor Sebastian Gorka predicts Donald will be the Republican nominee and give Biden a thrashing at the next election. Could it be a landslide? Well, he'll make his case in Uncancelled. Does Trump believe that wind energy is horrible for the country? Or is his green skepticism just a load of hot air? Body language expert Judy James breaks down some of the key moments from the interview this hour. Also coming up on the show tonight, will Nicola Sturgeon be forced to quit as her popularity plummets? Darren Grimes thinks he knows how the First Minister's story is destined to end. He's today's outsider. Do these quite incredible World Health Organization findings playing down the danger of Omicron prove our government jumped too fast. And after Sheffield residents block the renaming of streets honouring some of our greatest prime ministers, is the attempted censorship of our history finally coming to an end? I'll debate that with my panel in the Media Buzz. Plus, we'll bring you the first look at tomorrow's newspaper front pages and crown today's greatest Britain and Union jackass. This is Dan Wootton Tonight. Let's go. Just one thing first, though, before we get to the Trump analysis. I was right. All the hysteria, all the panic, all the new curbs to our freedoms and liberties, all those ridiculous warnings from the mad scientists and controlling communists over stopping socialising and cancelling Christmas, all for nothing, it looks like. The World Health Organization today said there's no evidence the Omicron variant will evade vaccines. Israel said the existing vaccine programme will continue to work. Let me tell you, my rage is so close to bubbling over about this. When will our leaders ever learn? Stop this mass mental torture and start dealing with COVID with a sense of perspective, as you always promise until the latest scare story breaks. And wait for the evidence. We'll have much more on that in the Media Buzz later in the show. Here's my superstar panel. Let me introduce them. Amanda Platel, the Daily Mail star columnist, Albi Aman-Kona, the Conservative commentator, and Daisy McAndrew, the political commentator. But before we get to all of the analysis of that Donald Trump interview and cross back to Nigel Farage in Florida, the news headlines with Tamsin Roberts.
Dan, thank you. Good evening. These are the latest headlines. The former US President Donald Trump says America is not respected anymore. He's been speaking exclusively to Nigel Farage on GBNews about his country's position on the world stage.
I think it's at the lowest point it's ever been at. Afghanistan with the withdrawal, which was, I think, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And you look at our borders, what's happening with our borders. You look at the cost of energy. We were energy independent, and we no longer are.
Well, you can watch the full interview online at gbnews.uk. The US has confirmed its first case of the Omicron variant of coronavirus. The country's chief medical advisor says it was identified in California. The traveller returned to the States from South Africa at the end of last month. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization says it'll have more information about the Omicron variant within days. The chief scientist thinks current vaccines will be effective against any new variants of coronavirus. At least 23 countries, including the UK, have now reported Omicron cases, and the WHO expects that number to rise.
Know that it's people above 45 with underlying comorbidities who are at highest risk of developing severe disease after getting infection, whether it's Omicron or Delta or any of the variants. And we know that vaccines are likely to have some protection. We still need to find out if there's any loss of protection, but we think vaccines will still protect against severe disease.
Sir Keir Starmer has accused the Prime Minister of failing to deliver on NHS targets after promising to build 40 new hospitals. Boris Johnson denied claims that the government's hospital building plan is unachievable. The Labour leader also criticised the Prime Minister for appearing to break lockdown rules last year after reports Christmas parties were held in Downing Street. A World War II bomb has exploded in Munich, leaving 4 people injured. The aircraft bomb went off at a construction site close to the city's main railway station. The Munich Fire Brigade says 1 person has been seriously wounded. The Women's Tennis Association has suspended tournaments in China due to worries over the safety of player Peng Shuai. There's widespread concern for Peng after she disappeared from public view last month. The tennis player posted a message on social media accusing China's former vice premier of sexual assault. Well, you're right up to date. Now let's get back to Dan Wootton Tonight.
Write off Donald Trump at your peril. That is the only conclusion from a fascinating in-depth interview between the 45th President of the United States and our own political disruptor-in-chief, Nigel Farage. Not only did we get the clearest indication yet of Trump's intention to run as the Republican nominee versus either a failed Joe Biden, his catastrophic VP, Kamala Harris, or maybe someone entirely new in 2024, we also got an insight into the playbook that Trump will use to try and annihilate the Democrats after his slim COVID-related loss last year. Following the humiliating capitulation to the Taliban in Afghanistan and increasing isolationist tendencies, America's standing is at the lowest internationally that it's ever been, Trump says. And it's surely hard to argue with that.
What's going on in Afghanistan with the withdrawal, which was, I think, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country.
I think that was Trump at his best, although I also loved his balls to continue a campaign to rebrand COVID-19 as the China virus, which should be completely uncontroversial, in my opinion, the more we learn about the origins of this damn thing and the monumental cover-up by the Chinese Communist Party.
They use COVID, or the China virus, as I call it.
I also loudly cheered when Trump defended the legacy of the very handsome, he said, very brave, Nigel said, Winston Churchill, who the woke mob want to denigrate as a racist and whose bust was ridiculously removed from the White House by Obama.
Why would you do that with Winston Churchill, and you're trying to get along with your country, and you send, it's such a token, but such an important token. No, I had it back for my entire time. It was there. I looked. He was a very handsome man.
And I couldn't have agreed more when Trump attacked the extremist organizations being given a free pass by politicians and the mainstream media, given they were formed on the revolting basis of killing the police.
You go back to their original founding and what they were saying, kill the police. What they're saying is kill the police.
I know.
And that becomes mainstream, not good.
But it is fair to say that alongside the good, the bad and the ugly were also on display too. Nigel was rebuffed when he hinted to the Donald that continuing to campaign on his belief the 2020 election was rigged could actually hurt the Republicans at the polls over the next few years if it causes some loyal supporters to lose faith with the American voting system.
Message to look forward and try and make sure that weakness in the system can't exist again.
I think it's both. I think it has to be both. So, you know, looking back is okay. You have to look both ways, but you can't forget about what happened.
There were a number that perhaps didn't go out to vote who would have done because they felt disgusted with the whole system.
I firmly believe Trump can be president again if he wants to be. The buyer's remorse from independents who backed Sleepy Joe and got a comatose president with a completely incompetent joke of a deputy is extreme. Trump is dramatically ahead of Biden, according to a string of polls in virtually all of the crucial swing states that determine who will become the next leader of the free world. And he's targeting new political attack lines based on inflation and the cost of living, thanks to the soaring price of oil since he left the presidency.
We had so much oil, we didn't know what to do with it. A gallon of gasoline was $1.87 when I left. Now it's going to be $7.50 in California. But the inflation is at a level maybe that we haven't seen for, I guess, 40, 50 years.
Unlike Boris Johnson, who he correctly pointed out has got a little more on the Liberal side since the election of Biden, Trump will not capitulate to the Greta Thunbergs of the world and the Green mob.
Carbon taxes that they want to put on countries and people and companies, I think it's ridiculous. We have resources in the U.S. that are incredible. And the enemy is making us feel badly about it and taking it away.
But it's in those candid and unexpected moments where I think you really get to see if a leader is in touch with his base, with his voters, with his people. And it was when Nigel asked about Harry and Meghan that Trump gave an answer that will be cheered by tens of millions of folk around the world, while horrifying the metropolitan elite and mainstream media who adore the awful woke warriors.
I think Harry has been used horribly. I think someday he will regret it. You know, a lot of people are saying I'm very good at the prediction business. I think someday he will regret it. He probably does already. I think she's very disrespectful to the royal family, but maybe most importantly to the Queen. And I just, from day one, I never got it. I never got it. I see her, I listen to her. She's trying to do things that I think are inappropriate, very inappropriate. But I think Harry's been used and been used terribly. It's ruined his relationship with his family.
Completely.
And it's really, really, I think it hurts the Queen.
No other international leader, past or present, would dare utter such words. But Trump is completely right. I think Harry has been played by Meghan. He will end up regretting it. His relationship with his family is destroyed thanks to his manipulative wife. And both of these chances have horribly disrespected the Queen, casting a shadow over her twilight years. Come on, admit it. However you feel about some of the excesses of Trump, it feels great to have a leader who will always say whatever he's thinking and whatever he's feeling, to hell with the consequences. And the man behind that world-exclusive interview, Nigel Farage, joins me now live from Palm Beach in Florida. Nigel, I think we're going to get to you in 1 second. It was an incredible interview, so many amazing revelations. What I want to know, though, Nigel, is what did he say to you off camera? Did he give any indication that he's definitely running again? Because he came, I think, as far as he's gone before during the chat.
Dan, good evening. One of the reasons that I've had a good and a growing friendship with Donald Trump over the course of the last 6 years is that he knows whatever he says to me in private, whatever says to me in private, I never, ever disclose in public, not even to Dan Wootton on GBNews. But I have to say, I thought that much of what he said in front of the camera reflected the things that he said to me off the camera. He may, in private, have gone a little further on one or two other subjects. But look, you know, my analogy of the heavyweight boxer that has lost the world title on a points decision. He's not happy with the judges, but he's limbering up and can't wait to get back in the ring. It was really interesting when I was interviewing him. That was when he first became really mischievous. You could see how much he's enjoying teasing everybody. No, the big clue, Dan, the really big clue, was when I asked him about the midterms. And he made it absolutely clear that he intends to be front and centre of that midterm campaign. You know, he's not doing that for fun. And I have to tell you, given the mess the Democrats are in, and that's not just because of Joe Biden, not just because of the plummeting popularity of the Vice President Kamala Harris, it's because the Democrats are making the same mistake the British Labour Party made when they tacked under Corbyn to the hard left. They alienated many people who were their traditional supporters, and that's exactly what is going on in America today. So I think the opportunities for the conservative movement here in America are absolutely, to quote Donald Trump, huge.
Nigel, as I mentioned in my digest, there was a moment near the start of the interview where I felt like you were trying to guide Donald away from continuing to relitigate the controversies of the 2020 election. But he was honest with you, Nigel. He does intend to continue campaigning on what he believes, what he says was a rigged election. There's not that much evidence for that. Do you feel like that's a political mistake?
Dan, I'm a friend and supporter of Donald Trump. I've spoken publicly at 2 of his rallies, all right? So, you know, I can't pretend that isn't the case. But that doesn't mean, because you agree with somebody on most things, that you agree with them on everything. And I really think that to continually hark back to November the 3rd is a negative thing to do. I've seen private polling suggesting up to 20% of potential Republican voters are put off by that message. You know, you've got to give people something to go out and vote for. And look at what happened in Georgia, the special election that cost the Republicans the majority in the House. The message was, it's rigged, it's fraudulent, it's hopeless, we can't beat them, they own the system. Oh, by the way, please vote for us next Tuesday. And they were surprised when people didn't. So I don't disagree that mass postal voting is always open to fraud, abuse and intimidation. But I feel that the Trump team need to turn that round into a positive. They need to say what happened on November the 3rd was wrong. And we, as Americans, believing we have the greatest country in the world, are going to make sure we have an election system that is absolutely filled with integrity, and we're going to fight and campaign and get tens of millions of people involved in a campaign, state by state, to clean up the registers, to stop the mass mail-out of ballots, and to try and make elections happen on election day, not 3.5 weeks before it. It's how you turn that negative into a positive. So that's, yes, you're right. You know, I didn't quite see eye to eye with him on that, and I'm urging him and his friends to just change tack on this.
Yeah, no, I could tell. I could tell, and he wasn't prepared to take the bait. Nigel, it really does seem to me, after that interview, that Trump, while he remains a friend of Boris Johnson, is disillusioned by his move to the left, especially on environmental issues. Did you get that sense too?
Yes, I mean, look, he's always liked Boris Johnson's persona. Because, you know, a little bit like Trump, you know, Boris Johnson is kind of larger than life and out there and says things that are written up in the press as gaffes, but actually people generally haven't cared very much. So he's always liked that about Boris. And he also liked about Boris the fact that he joined the Brexit campaign. And all right, we know it was last minute. We know he wrote 2 articles, 1 for, 1 against. But he liked Boris for doing that. Trump always believed that Brexit was absolutely the right thing to do. He doesn't believe in globalist structures. You know, Trump believes in democracy, not globalist bureaucracy. But I did get the sense in the interview of a growing sense that perhaps Boris Johnson has lost his way, and that perhaps Boris Johnson, in Trump's eyes, isn't really a conservative anymore. Now, he put it quite tactfully. You know, I think he's moved a bit to the Liberal side. On the wind energy debate, well, look, I mean, I think those wind farms are pig ugly. I've always thought so, but I guess that's in the eye of the beholder. But Trump turned America into an energy independent state and a net exporter of energy. And just look at where we are. I mean, we import nearly 10% of our electricity. Yet we've got all the natural resources, whether it's gas up in the Northwest Basin or wherever it is. You know, why aren't we considering being energy independent? And when it comes to wind energy, well, look, I just think it's wrong that ordinary folk watching this programme now are being taxed heavily on their household bills to pay tens of billions over the years to giant multinational foreign companies for a form of energy that is unreliable. And I think Boris is wrong to want us to become the Saudi Arabia of wind. So I'm absolutely with the president on that one.
And Nigel, just finally, take me behind the scenes. What's it like at Mar-a-Lago? Is he comfortable there? Is Melania about? Give me a bit of colour.
Mar-a-Lago is an amazing place. I've been several times over the years. I was there for almost a week earlier on this year. It is beautiful. The lawns, the gardens are beautiful. The paintwork on the buildings is perfect. The menu is incredible. The wine list, for those that choose to head in that direction, is pretty blooming good too. It's just the most amazing place. And of course, it is effectively a playground for the rich and famous in America. And of course, Donald Trump, the owner of it, is by far the most famous person that is there. I think he's very much at home when he's at Mar-a-Lago, and you could be having dinner and he or Melania or both of them can sort of wander around the tables and say hello. It's got the most amazing, relaxed, but actually very classy feel to it. And I have to say, I'm not someone that could afford the membership fee, but I understand if I had the money, I'd very much want to be a part of it.
Oh, I'm not jealous at all, Nigel, that you're there. No, it's not utterly freezing cold in the UK or anything like that. You just have a brilliant time, Nigel. No. And we'll see you back here next week. Nigel Farage, you deserve a brilliant interview. Thank you so much. My superstar panel will react to the Trump interview very shortly. But coming up, does Trump really believe that wind energy is horrible for the country? Or is it just bluster? Body language queen Judy James will break down everything that Trump didn't say out loud in that world exclusive interview. But up next, would a second Trump presidency, which after tonight seems more likely than ever, be a good thing? His former press secretary Sean Spicer will do battle with Democratic commentator Eric Guster. And I want to hear your verdict on this too. Email me, dan@gbnews.uk, or tweet us at GBNews. We're back with that in 2.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello. Things turning cold out there right now. Frosty for many by morning, and there is the potential for things to be a bit slippery as well. There are ice warnings issued and a little bit of snow in some spots. This area of low pressure is moving away, but it's opened the door to cold air driving south from the Arctic. And where we've got these little weather fronts, they will enhance the showers, and that combination of showers and cold air could lead to some icy conditions. Already across northern Scotland, we've got some snow showers. Down the eastern side of England, a mixture of rain, sleet and snow showers, and the potential also through parts of Wales. You could wake up to a covering here, maybe even into the Midlands, and later on through the night across the southwest of England. So we do have that ice warning in place as temperatures drop down close to freezing. Even in towns and cities, rural areas will be well below. And as well as that ice, there is the likelihood of some sleet and snow for southwest England, Wales and the eastern side of England and northern Scotland. Say snow even to lower levels in some locations. As we go through the day, that mixture of rain, sleet and snow will clear the southwest. The showers will ease along the east coast, although there'll always be some. And across northern Scotland, it becomes dry. So for most, it's a dry, fine, sunny day tomorrow. But it will be cold, 3 or 4 degrees at best for most of us. At least the winds, though, will be a little lighter than that biting one that's been blowing through the day today. Then, during tomorrow evening, wet weather returns from the west, and as it hits the colder air, there'll be some snow for a time across Scotland, but even also further south over parts of England and Wales. It could, for a few hours, be a little bit of snow, mostly through the night, however. Perhaps early on Friday across East Anglia and the southeast, and quite quickly any snow will melt and turn back to rain. Quite a grey day then on Friday across the south. Rain clearing, but another spell of rain arriving in the southwest. Further north, though, Friday looks like a bright day with sunny spells and just a few showers, and turning milder across the south.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of 2 wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else, I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Time now for The Clash. And Donald Trump has tonight given his strongest indication so far that he'll run for the presidency of the United States again in 2024. Here's what he told Nigel Farage.
I love our country. I brought the country to a level it's never seen before. Then we had COVID come in, and then I brought it back. If you love the country, you have no choice. It's not a question. It's just, this is a wonderful, beautiful life. But I like that too because I was helping people. That's why I did it. And I think you'll be happy in the future too.
Republicans and even some Democrats believe if he does run, he will probably win the presidency. But would a second Trump term be a good thing for the world? What do you think? Let me know and vote in our Twitter poll. But I'm joined now by Donald Trump's former White House communications director, Sean Spicer, and the Democratic commentator, Eric Guster. So, Sean Spicer, obviously Trump cannot say officially that he's running, but he gave a pretty clear indication to Farage earlier. Presumably, you think that would be a great thing for the world?
Well, look, I think that's as far as I've heard him lean in that conversation that he had with Nigel. That being said, you're right. For legal purposes, campaign finance purposes, he can't go all the way. But I think if you know anything about Donald Trump, he's going to keep his cards close to the vest because he wants to maintain that level of suspense. He wants to keep people engaged. He's got a political action committee, and obviously he wants the donations and frankly, to be that 800-pound gorilla, so to speak, as we head into the midterms where people are looking for his endorsement. So he's ensuring that he stays relevant regardless of what that decision is going to be.
And Sean, I mean, he really remains the most important figure within the Republican Party, right? There's no one who comes close to his influence.
Not at all. I've been doing this just shy of 30 years. I've never seen anybody with the grip and the hold. At one point back in the early 90s, Newt Gingrich was a huge figure, but it was mostly on the House side. And even then, it didn't last that long. I mean, you've seen Trump from both initially as a candidate, then as a president, and now as a post-president, having a level of power and hold over the party that, frankly, I've never seen with any candidate, at least in modern history. And I would argue that you could probably go back all the way through time and not see somebody, have and yield the level of power and influence that he does, especially within the primaries.
Sean, you know that there are even conservatives in this country who can't stomach the thought of a second Trump administration. Convince them. Why would it be a good thing?
Well, look, I mean, I think that I always said that the last election was style versus substance. There's a lot of people who didn't like his tweets, his style, the things that he said about people. But at the end of the day, when you look at the policies that Trump implemented, whether it was holding Iran accountable, holding other NATO countries accountable in terms of the GDP that they had that went towards defense, percentage thereof, I think that he got results. And so you can have a lot of happy talk, but does that yield the results that you want? Number one. Number two, I mean, if you look under the Biden administration, whether it's how he handled the relationship with the UK in terms of pulling out of Afghanistan, not notifying France about the nuclear deal that he had, dissing South Korea during a repatriation ceremony. I mean, I think that sometimes we always think the grass is greener on the other side.
Eric Guster, I mean, there must be a part of you that, as a Democrat, feels catastrophically disappointed by Joe Biden.
I'm catastrophically disappointed that Trump is even thinking about running again, because this is bringing back the racial tension that our country has had, the actual racial tension that he stoked, and that's his base. I am happy about a lot of things that Joe Biden is doing. We are on the road to recovery from COVID, the same disease that Donald Trump said would just go away when the summer came. So we have a lot of things that the country is working through. And fortunately, we are doing a great job in getting those things in order.
He did develop the vaccines, though, didn't he?
Didn't who?
Trump.
No, the pharmaceutical companies developed the vaccines. And it's very interesting you mentioned the vaccines because Trump's base are the people who are not being vaccinated. And it's very interesting that you mentioned that because Trump himself did not come out and encourage people to take the vaccine. Many of his supporters refused to wear masks to protect people and others. He did not come out and say, please take this vaccine so that our country can get back on the right track. But his supporters are the ones who are really in the high unvaccinated rates that are endangering our country.
Sean Spicer, I guess you would say he definitely took a different approach to Democrats and liberals. He doesn't believe in vaccine coercion, but it was under the Trump administration where these vaccines were developed.
Operation Warp Speed, cutting through the government red tape and bureaucracy is what got us to where we are. At the end of the day, that wouldn't have happened without Trump insisting that people bust through all of the bureaucracy that exists in record speed. But I will argue, I mean, he made it very clear he got the vaccine. He did encourage his people to do it. He doesn't believe in mandates. I think that is a big difference. And I think a lot of people would agree with him in this country. But at the end of the day, I mean, I think he should be rewarded for the fact that we wouldn't be where we are, not just as a country, but frankly, as a world, if Trump hadn't encouraged the private sector to do what they did. They couldn't have done it without him. I mean, there's no way the CDC, the FDA, all the other agencies that are involved in that process would have never allowed it to move forward the way it did if it wasn't for the way that Trump conducted himself. And at the end of the day, yes, he did encourage people to get vaccinated. He made it very clear that he took the vaccine himself. But he also made it very clear that at the end of the day, there is something inherently un-American about forcing somebody to put something in their body.
Eric Guster, do you worry that the fact that the social media companies and the mainstream media are desperate to silence Trump, do you worry that that's actually going to make him more powerful?
People are not trying to silence Trump. We're trying to stop racism. And it was very interesting what Spicer just mentioned.
Social media companies have silenced Trump.
Well, when you start stoking racism, start encouraging violence, free speech stops there. If I tell people to go beat you up on the street, then they will shut me down. They will flag any of my posts. So you can't have someone who was involved in January 6th and the insurrection, who was encouraging people to do those types of things at our Capitol, and the Republicans were cowering in a corner, but all of a sudden trying to stand bravado now. You can't have someone who's doing that regardless of their position, whether the president or they're the garbage man. We have to have civility in our country, and Trump being really the bottom of the gutter when it comes to certain things, he should have been silenced on some of those platforms. Absolutely.
Sean Spicer, do you want to respond to those allegations that Trump stoked violence?
Yeah, well, look, the funny thing about what Eric said is that if that's the standard, and I write this, I have a brand new book called Radical Nation that's out, and I document Maxine Waters, Eric Holder, Hillary Clinton, and on and on and on. People on the left that were very encouraging of violence when it came to Trump officials, people they didn't agree with, talking about kicking them, surrounding them, going to their homes. They didn't speak out during the protests when cities were vandalized and people were accosted last summer. So it's interesting that for someone who doesn't believe in violence, and I've called it out on both sides, to be honest with you, because I was very appalled at what happened on January 6th. I spoke out very, very vocally about it. But it's interesting how the folks on the left don't want to call out people on the left when they're being violent, when they're looting, when they're vandalizing, when they're destroying, and when they're harming individuals. They only see it one way. And I think that that's very interesting, because I'm happy on a moral standpoint from saying, when I've said it all along, it's always wrong. Violence is never acceptable in our country, frankly, or anywhere, as a means of expressing your displeasure with the government or with another individual or a political party. But the left only seems to call out things when it affects, when it goes in their direction.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. I think all violence should be called out. I guess, Eric Guster, the point that Donald Trump made earlier tonight to Nigel Farage is that it was actually organizations like Antifa that were founded on this message of killing the police.
Antifa was not founded on the message of killing the police. That's part of the reason that Donald Trump has gotten so powerful, because people start believing the lies that they put out. Just like they're saying January 6th was orchestrated by the Democrats, which is a complete lie. And oftentimes people want to believe the lies so badly because they want their candidate to win that they roll with it. And that's part of the problem that we have in our country is people will roll with a lie. They'll go with a lie because it sounds good, it feels good, and it fits their agenda. But the truth never changes regardless of who's president, whether it's Joe Biden or Donald Trump. January 6th happened. Trump's base was at the center of it. And speaking of January 6th, breaching our Capitol is a long way from somebody breaking into a Dunkin' Donuts. So we have to be very mindful of comparing a protest and someone breaching the Capitol. They're two totally different things.
Okay, well, I think it's slightly disingenuous to suggest that the worst Antifa has ever done is break into a Dunkin' Donuts. But where I do agree with you and Sean is that violence on both sides should be called out. Fascinating debate. That was Sean Spicer, White House Communications Director under President Donald Trump, and the Democratic commentator Eric Guster. So who do you agree with? Caroline has emailed to say, I used to think that America could not survive another term of Trump. After the debacle of Sleepy Joe and his deputy, the cackling Kamala Harris, I have to come to the opinion that America has no choice but to have another term of Trump. Andrew, via Twitter, Trump's least favourite platform. Trump would lose again. He never won the popular vote. His presidency was a failure. And Scarborian adds, love Trump, best POTUS ever, and he loves the UK. The verdict of GB News viewers is now in. 75% of you agree that a second Trump presidency would be a good thing for the world, while a quarter of you say it wouldn't be good. Coming up, will the Sturgeon's story end with her being forced to quit? Darren Grimes, tonight's Outsider, explains his big prediction later on. But after the break, he's not one to hold back. But does Trump's body language reveal something more than what he said on camera? Judy James casts her expert eyes over the big GB News interview with the former president next.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello. Things turning cold out there right now. Frosty for many by morning, and there is the potential for things to be a bit slippery as well. There are ice warnings issued and a little bit of snow in some spots. This area of low pressure is moving away, but it's opened the door to cold air driving south from the Arctic. And where we've got these little weather fronts, they will enhance the showers, and that combination of showers and cold air could lead to some icy conditions. Already across northern Scotland, we've got some snow showers. Down the eastern side of England, a mixture of rain, sleet and snow showers, and the potential also through parts of Wales. You could wake up to a covering here, maybe even into the Midlands, and later on through the night across the southwest of England. So we do have that ice warning in place as temperatures drop down close to freezing. Even in towns and cities, rural areas will be well below. And as well as that ice, there is the likelihood of some sleet and snow for southwest England, Wales and the eastern side of England and northern Scotland. Say snow even to lower levels in some locations. As we go through the day, that mixture of rain, sleet and snow will clear the southwest. The showers will ease along the east coast, although there will always be some. And across northern Scotland, it becomes dry. So for most, it's a dry, fine, sunny day tomorrow. But it will be cold, 3 or 4 degrees at best for most of us. At least the winds, though, will be a little lighter than that biting one that's been blowing through the day today. Then, during tomorrow evening, wet weather returns from the west, and as it hits the colder air, there'll be some snow for a time across Scotland, but even also further south over parts of England and Wales. It could, for a few hours, be a little bit of snow, mostly through the night, however. Perhaps early on Friday across East Anglia and the southeast, and quite quickly any snow will melt and turn back to rain. Quite a grey day then on Friday across the south. Rain clearing, but another spell of rain arriving in the southwest. Further north, though, Friday looks like a bright day with sunny spells and just a few showers, and turning milder across the south.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else, I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
So many revelations tonight from Donald Trump's world exclusive interview with our very own Nigel Farage. Perhaps one of the most interesting, though, regarding green policies.
Boris is wrong. If he's going heavy into wind, I mean, you're telling me, but if he's going heavy into wind,
he is.
He's wrong. He's making a big mistake.
He is. You've always been nice about him, but he's.
No, I like him. I like him. I get along with him. I've always gotten along with him. He's gone a little bit on the more liberal. But I'll tell you, with energy, I'm surprised that he would allow that to happen.
So, should Boris Johnson be listening to the Donald? Here to respond now, my superstar panel, the Daily Mail columnist Amanda Platel, co-founder of Conservatives Against Racism for Equality, Albi Amankona, and the political and royal commentator Daisy McAndrew. Amanda, let me start with you. Do you feel like this represents a fracture between Trump and Boris?
Dan, I've got to tell you, I don't really care about Donald Trump's views on our green policy. I think the bigger question in this is, will Donald Trump be capable of being president in 2 years' time when he'll be almost as old as Biden is, a guy who can't even read an autocue? But I'm slightly more concerned, I did a little bit of research on this, that, you know, if you look back, I'm really worried about Donald Trump's hair because he's hardly got any hair left. And you have to go back to...
What?
Donald Trump's got hardly any hair left. Did you not notice in those?
No, it looks...
It is all airbrushed.
Oh,
it is all completely
quite
fake.
Thick.
And there has not been... And this is a serious political point, Dan.
Yes, OK.
Excuse me. I am a serious journalist. And I have to say here, there has not been a... The last bald president was Eisenhower, and that was more than half a century ago. So Donald does not stand a chance.
That doesn't look bald to me, Amanda. That doesn't look bald to me, and I'm a man very concerned about follicles, let me tell you.
Sorry, you guys, you know, you're generous about other blokes. That guy's going to have no hair in 3 years. Can't win.
Oh, yeah, Mancona, take it away.
So, first of all, Dan, I just want to challenge something which you said in your digest. Because you said that Biden won the election by a slim margin, when actually he won the same electoral college as Trump did in 2016. And I think what we all need to be is, we all need to be pro-democracy. And Trump lost the election. And I think he showed no contrition and he accepted no responsibility for that electoral loss. He accepted no responsibility for what happened at Capitol Hill. 5 people died. And, you know, I could have accepted Trump running again had he just accepted that he'd lost that election. But he tried to subvert democracy in one of the world's greatest liberal democracies, and I think that is a chilling prospect that he might run again.
And Daisy, he's not going to accept it, is he? Because Trump, you could tell, was not into Nigel's suggestion that actually he should just put the past to the past and focus on the future. He wasn't down for that.
I think one of the problems is he's so invested in that story. He's been living and breathing it for so long that he can't get himself. He's addicted to that story and that narrative. And his very, very loyal supporters are also addicted to that story. But of course, as you said, and as Nigel Farage was saying, that doesn't broaden. It doesn't work with the rest of the electorate because everybody else is bored of that. And, you know, as Albie was saying, Capitol Hill riots were appalling. And Donald Trump started to say, oh, you know, it's all Antifa and all the rest of it, which again is something he's been saying again and again. Never mentions the Proud Boys anymore, who are worse than that. Antifa is not nice. Don't get me wrong. I'm not. They have a lot to answer for. But he constantly goes on about Antifa, but never about the Proud Boys, who are worse in many, many aspects.
Yeah, but I don't think blaming Trump for the violence on what happened at the Capitol on January the 6th is fair, personally. I don't.
Yes, but when he constantly brings up Antifa, he is entering into that argument and he is trying to blame other people, which I think is wrong. And on the green energy thing, a lot of what he says doesn't add up. When he was going on and on about how birds die because of wind farms, when you look at the statistics on that, what he claims isn't true. And that is a problem with quite a lot of what Donald Trump says. When you unpick it or when you challenge it, some of these things crumble. Having said that, I can completely see him coming back, and I think that's because the Democrats are doing a bad job. And it's there for him, you know, to...
There for the taking.
It's there for the taking.
It's there for the taking. And a lot of voters, as I said in my digest, have real buyer's remorse, especially independents, you know, who really did move away from Trump in big numbers to Biden, and independents very critical in a lot of the swing states. Amanda, look, can I just ask you, please, can you just put the hairline to one side? Let's just
That's what he did.
The hair talk, just for one moment. Because, Amanda, let's just be real. If Trump runs in the Republican primary, he gets the nomination, doesn't he? This is down to him. This is his party now.
Dan, do you really, really think that's going to happen?
I think it might.
Look, he's a powerful political force. He's a bit like Boris in that he has an incredible electoral momentum. He's seen as a winner by his supporters. I just don't think America's going to vote in another guy who's about to turn 80 and can't even read the auto cue. I mean, I just don't think it's going to happen. I think they're going to revert to a younger leader. I think Trump could be a kingmaker, but I don't think he'll ever be the king again.
No, but Albie, the point that I'm making is that if he wants the Republican nomination, he's got it. Obviously, the actual general could be a lot closer.
I think he could very easily get the Republican nomination, but I agree with Amanda. He could I actually agree and disagree with Amanda. He could be the king if he wants to be the king, but I think he could also be the kingmaker. He was speaking a lot about the endorsements and lots of Republican sort of wannabe politicians coming up to him and asking for endorsements from him, because actually, if they get an endorsement from Trump and his base votes for them, they're going to get in office. So Trump really has a lot of power within the Republican Party, and we can never count him out of an election, I don't think.
No, indeed. Well, Amanda Patel, Albie Amankona, Daisy McAndrew, do stand by. My superstar panel are here all night. But coming up, does Trump have what it takes to beat Biden again? And could it be a landslide, as former advisor Seb Gorka reckons we could see a record victory in 2024? He'll be here later in Uncancelled. Plus, does today's World Health Organization findings playing down the danger of Omicron prove our government jumped too fast? The panel will be back to tackle that in the media buzz. Plus, we'll bring you the first of tomorrow's newspaper front pages.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else, I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Welcome back. Darren Grimes and Sebastian Gorka on the way. But first, there were lots of big takeaways from tonight's world exclusive interview between GB News star Nigel Farage and Donald Trump. Among the revelations, Trump, big fan of the fist bump, it looks like. And actually looking closely at more of the Donald's body language from his sit down, and what it can tell us is our body language expert, Judy James. Now, Judy, I want you to have a look at this. Donald hit out at the installation of wind turbines, particularly in Scotland, saying environmentalists who back wind farms must hate the world. I want your analysis, but first let's have a look.
I think it's ridiculous. And I think wind is a horrible thing for Scotland. And I got to see it because I own great properties in Scotland and Ireland. And I look at these magnificent fields with these horrible windmills all over them. And windmills is a nice term, I guess turbines.
Judy, it was like that was the moment of most passion in the interview. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this was a profoundly different Trump throughout. He kind of lost his fight signals. He'd lost his power posturing signals. He'd lost that chest banging, preening, posturing, machismo marinated alpha appeared to have gone. This was the moment we got a flash of it. And the minute the word wind was mentioned, you could actually see his eye dart to the left as though he'd smelt the enemy. And this is where we began to get some bigger gesticulation. He has a habit when he's in fight mode to display his lower teeth, so his jaw juts. That came back here and he turned it into a very strong sales pitch. I think, Dan, he actually genuinely feels strongly about this because at the end he performed a hand wring as though he is genuinely worried about the future of wind farms, etc. He's Don Quixote, isn't he? He'll be tilting at them next.
Now, Judy, I want to come closer to home to that horrible briefing that Boris Johnson held on Saturday evening, where he snatched away more of our freedoms after the emergence of Omicron. Judy, take a look at what went down.
Will require anyone who enters the UK to take a PCR test by the end of the second day after their arrival and to self-isolate until they have a negative result. We will require all contacts of those who test positive with a suspected case of Omicron to self-isolate for 10 days, regardless of your vaccination status. We will also go further in asking all of you to help contain the spread of this variant by tightening up the rules on face coverings in shops and on public transport.
Judy, I'm still so angry about this whole thing because, of course, we have the World Health Organization saying today no evidence that Omicron does evade the vaccines at all. And this press conference had horrible links, I think, to what we went through last year when Boris cancelled Christmas. What's your reading of his body language, Judy?
I think you're right, Dan. I mean, except that he's now adopted a sort of an air of reluctance. I mean, it's worrying that he now looks as fed up with it as everybody else. I mean, at least sort of originally we would get some motivational gesticulation. He would do that air punching that we're seeing. He'd try to rally people round. But he was just like a big deflated bag here. I mean, even when he walked on, he was frowning. He looked round, eye dark to the audience. He did a rocking of one foot to the other, which is normally a sign, in animal terms, of a ritual of agitation and distress. There was nothing about his body language that made it look as though he was believing his own message and even trying to sell it to us.
Really fascinating, Judy. Do you feel like he was forced into that press conference?
I would say that, I mean, I think we know that these kind of things are not to his taste, but yes, that's the sort of look that he had. It was as though, I don't like this message, but I've got to say it to you.
I've got to do it because I've got the doomsday scientists on either side of me. No, indeed, I completely see what you mean.
He even sucked to his lips at the end, which is a gesture of regret when he'd finished.
Well, he should be regretful because he terrified us all completely unnecessarily, it looks like, Judy. Now, look, I want to end with something positive, something fun, something that involves a national treasure, Judy James. I'm talking about Alison Hammond, the ITV star, who had an icy surprise at Lapland earlier this week.
How warm is it, huh?
She's just going in. I really want to know how she feels.
Oh my God! I feel amazing!
Oh, she's singing.
I did it, guys! I'm showing a bit too much juice.
Judy, she's the most genuine celebrity we have, right?
Yeah, I love Alison. I mean, I first saw her in Big Brother, so she's obviously not particularly reserved, and she's genuinely like that on and off camera as well. I love the way that she pretended that she didn't know that the top had fallen off there. I mean, that bathing costume, Dan, that's an expensive, beautiful, glamorous costume, so I think that was probably due for an airing. But this is why she's so genuinely funny on the show, because this is what Alison's like in real life. You know, this isn't her actually pretending to be funny, and she's got that amazing laugh as well. So yeah, and I think it is.
Okay, but you think she knew? You think she knew she was going to show off a little bit of boobie, and nothing wrong with a bit of Alison Hammond boobie? She looked amazing.
Do you remember when Judy Finnegan had a similar problem?
Oh yeah, but she didn't know about that.
Thing, you know? But with Alison, that was a glamorous top that deserved displaying. So yeah, I think she knew.
Yeah, she's a national treasure. It was one of my highlights of the week, and my goodness, we needed cheering up. Judy James, thank you so much. Brilliant body language analysis as ever. And it's coming up to 10 o'clock. Still to come, Donald Trump has given his strongest indication yet that he will run for president again in 2024 in a world-exclusive interview with GBNews.
If you love the country, you have no choice. It's not a question. It's just, this is a wonderful, beautiful life. But I like that too because I was helping people. That's why I did it. And I think you'll be happy in the future too.
Does he have what it takes to beat Biden again, and could it be a landslide? His former advisor Seb Gorka thinks so, and he'll be here at 10:40. Will Nicola Sturgeon be forced to quit as her popularity plummets? Darren Grimes thinks that's the only way the First Minister's SNP story will end. He'll share what he knows in today's Outsider. Do the findings from the World Health Organization today, playing down the danger of Omicron, prove the government jumped too fast? And after Sheffield blocked the renaming of streets honouring our greatest PMs, is the attempted whitewashing of our history finally coming to an end? I'll debate that with my panel in the Media Buzz. Plus, we'll bring you a first look at the front pages hitting newsstands tomorrow, and we'll crown today's greatest Britain and Union jackass. You don't want to go anywhere. But first, the news headlines at 10 with Tamsin Roberts.
Dan, thank you. Here are the latest headlines. The former US President Donald Trump has described the Capitol Hill riot as a protest. Trump supporters clashed with police and then stormed the building, leaving 4 people dead. He's been speaking exclusively to Nigel Farage on GBNews about the events on January the 6th.
The insurrection took place on November 3rd. That was Election Day. And before and after. That was, to me, the insurrection. And the January 6th was a protest. But if you would have looked at the crowds, the size, nobody wants to talk about that. I believe it was the biggest, and most people, and I've spoken to very big crowds. I have never spoken in front of a crowd that size. Nobody ever talks about that. And then, unfortunately, some bad things happened.
Well, you can watch the full interview online at gbnews.uk. The US has confirmed its first case of the Omicron variant of coronavirus. The country's chief medical advisor says it was identified in California. The traveller returned to the States from South Africa at the end of last month. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization says it'll have more information about the Omicron variant within days. The chief scientist thinks current vaccines will be effective against any new variants of coronavirus. At least 23 countries, including the UK, have now reported cases, and the WHO expects that number to rise.
Know that it's people above 45 with underlying comorbidities who are at highest risk of developing severe disease after getting infection, whether it's Omicron or Delta or any of the variants. And we know that vaccines are likely to have some protection. We still need to find out if there's any loss of protection, but we think vaccines will still protect against severe disease.
A 15-year-old boy has been charged with murder and terrorism for a high school shooting that killed 4 students in Michigan. Ethan Crumbley's parents were called to Oxford High School over behaviour in the classroom that was concerning just hours before. The prosecutor said the shooting that happened yesterday was premeditated. Sir Keir Starmer has accused the Prime Minister of failing to deliver on NHS targets after promising to build 40 new hospitals. But Boris Johnson denied claims that the government's hospital building plan is unachievable. The Labour leader also criticised the Prime Minister for appearing to break lockdown rules last year after reports Christmas parties were held in Downing Street. The Women's Tennis Association has suspended tournaments in China due to worries over the safety of player Peng Shuai. There's widespread concern for Peng after she disappeared from public view last month. The tennis player posted a message on social media accusing China's former vice premier of sexual assault. Well, those are the headlines. Now it's back to Dan Wootton tonight.
Time for tomorrow's News Tonight now on our Media Buzz. First front pages have just dropped hot off the press. Let it flow, say the Metro. The Health Secretary Sajid Javid has urged people to carry on enjoying Christmas parties, but take a lateral flow test before going to stay safe. Do you know those bores at Channel 4 News cancelled Jon Snow's leaving party? Do you think they just don't want to spend any more time with him? The Independent warns the Omicron coronavirus variant could be the largest spike yet for Britain. Aren't they joyful? Aren't they joyful? And isn't this fascinating because it runs completely counter to everything the World Health Organization has said. But anyway, these ludicrous scientists say it could overwhelm the NHS and a very stringent response is needed from the government. They've said the same thing, by the way, since March 2020. The iFront page leads with the news that booster jabs will be administered until 2023 as Britain buys 114 million vaccine doses. The government secured the 2-year supply from Pfizer and Moderna to deliver the boosters. This comes as the government's vaccine scientists are poised to make urgent decisions on vaccines. Oh, I can't even deal with this. For 5 to 11-year-olds after the medicines watchdog has ruled on their safety. Can we not just leave the 5-year-olds alone, please? My superstar panel back with me now. The Daily Mail star columnist Amanda Patel, co-founder of Conservatives Against Racism for Equality, Albiam Ancona, and the political and royal commentator Daisy McAndrew. Now, let's stick with the COVID crisis. Last night, the Tory government enshrined its restrictive and hysterical new COVID rules into law until March. The unnecessarily paranoid measures will force people to isolate for 10 days if they come into contact with someone with the Omicron variant, even if they are vaccinated. And guess what? If you don't, you could be fined £10,000. The moves look particularly over the top, given this World Health Organization revelation from earlier today that says there's no evidence the Omicron variant will evade vaccines. And writing in her Daily Mail column, Michael Gove's ex-wife, Sarah Vine, shared the fears of many, including me, when she said, "It seems unthinkable, but it's almost as though our politicians, such as Sturgeon and beyond, have become so addicted to the power that COVID gives them, they almost don't want this to be over." Mad, I know. Or is it? Because what else explains this rush, this eagerness for a return to restrictions, if not the fact that they represent the power to control and monitor their populations to a greater degree than ever before in the history of humanity? Sarah Vine, a brilliant columnist and journalist in her own right, but she knows these folk, doesn't she? I mean, she was married to Michael Gove, including during this pandemic. So, do the findings by the World Health Organization today prove the government gave in to hysteria and overreacted, Amanda Patel? Don't disagree with me, my God. I'm worked up again.
I'm not going to disagree with you, Dan.
No, you are allowed. You're actually allowed.
I am. Free speech here?
Yeah. No. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm with Professor Whitty here, who said...
Oh, God. Okay.
No, come on. He actually said, he's on our side in this one. He said, the British people will not tolerate another lockdown, and I will not tolerate another lockdown. All of my friends are vaxxed to the max. You know, I have no intention of not seeing them, doing all the things I want to do with them all over the Christmas period. But I was actually, when I was thinking about this and when I was coming in tonight, and I was asked to put a mask on, which is not actually, you know, it's recommended but not required. And
where were you?
Well, I was coming from my home.
So in a taxi?
Yeah, in a taxi. And I said to the guy, do I need to wear a mask? He said no, and I'm glad, because I think masks are misogynistic. Because if you're like me and Daisy, not you, darling.
How did you figure that they were misogynistic?
Because if you put a mask over your face, you end up looking like Heath Ledger in the Joker. And that is not right. That is not right, and it's not fair.
So you should be exempt
all over my face.
For aesthetic reasons. I agree.
It's too beautiful to cover
up.
Yeah.
Human rights reasons.
Human rights, no, indeed.
I mean, seriously, what would I look like if I came here?
And you know what?
And it doesn't apply to men. You don't wear lipstick. No. You don't wear lipstick. So I think it's a sexist law. And I think men should be made to wear them, but women don't have to.
I don't want them either, believe me. Albiam Ancona, they did overreact, didn't they? We know that now. I mean, I cannot understand the basis of a Saturday evening press conference. And we know a lot of us have PTSD because it was a Saturday evening press conference last year. Yeah, I'm not even joking.
I don't think the government are the only people who have overreacted at this. I think we all just need to calm down.
Well, they're the one that held a 5 p.m. press conference on a Saturday evening to terrify us all. I didn't have that.
I think that the reaction of the government when there's no evidence that it evades any vaccines or anything like that is over the top. But I also think Sarah Vine is over the top. I mean, saying it's the biggest control on humanity in history, it's just simply not true, is it? I mean, these people wouldn't have done very well in the world wars, would they, when we were ordered underground and our food was rationed? I think we just need a sense of proportionality in this. Yes, the government overreacted with their response. I think Cyril Ramaphosa has got it totally right, saying, do you know what, Western government, please don't close your borders to us. You've overreacted. He's just getting on with it. He had a state visit from the president of Nigeria the other day, getting on with it, running their economy. That's what we should be doing in Britain and Europe. But I think everyone is overreacting at this, not just the politicians. the reaction of the commentator.
I obviously completely disagree with that because I don't think I've overreacted at all. It's not about the individual measures. It's about the fact that if we allow ourselves to live in a state of fear where any time there's a discovery of a new variant in some far-flung country, we slam our borders shut, we stop businesses from operating, we force human beings to muzzle up, we're not learning to live with COVID.
Yes, but equally, many would argue we're not learning the lessons of the mistakes that were made before. And, of course, the government had huge criticism for not acting fast enough, for not closing the border to India with the Delta variant, for not locking down sooner. Now, we can all debate what's right and what's
Just to
wrong.
interrupt on that point, though, Daisy, because I hear this a lot, and a lot of people, including some people at the station, argue it, and it makes my blood boil. Just because the government was criticised for something doesn't mean that the criticism was correct. So actually, when it comes to the borders, I just want to use the example of the borders, actually, all of the scientists agree that slamming the borders shut does not stop variants entering the country.
But the government's not
it just
claiming
slightly
that.
delays it.
But that's what the government's claiming. The government is claiming we're buying time. We know we're not going to keep it out. I mean, there's a story in tomorrow's papers about there's an Israeli triple-vaxxed medic who came over here last week to go to an Excel, a huge conference, 1,200 people conference. I didn't actually know they were allowed at the moment, and has gone back to Israel with the new variant. So it's completely pointless to kid ourselves that we're going to keep this out,
we're
going to
not.
keep it out of other places. But I think that some of the, some of the hysteria in Sarah Vine's, who I have a lot of time for, article is ridiculous. And I also think it's incredibly
I think it was
unhelpful.
not hysterical at all.
I think it's incredibly unhelpful. You talk about PDSE. I think it's incredibly unhelpful to say that the government is on some power-mad, rampage across all of our rights. The government doesn't want to be doing these things. The government doesn't want those powers. And, Amanda and I have both worked for politicians, and I don't want to speak for Amanda, but certainly...
Oh, go on, Daisy. I love it when you speak for me.
One of the lessons I learned, and I'm sure I've said this before, is that 9 times out of 10, these conspiracies are actually cock-ups. So this thing about the legislation going on till March, I bet my bottom dollar that's an oversight, and I bet my bottom dollar that's not that legislation is not going to be in place till March. The minister herself seemed surprised that it was going to be on the books till March. That's true. I think that's a cock-up.
Well, look, right through, Amanda, right through this
about
whole thing, I've used the theory of Hanlon's razor, and when people say this is a conspiracy and there's some global reset going on, I say no. These people don't even know how to organise anything very simple. So, of course, they couldn't organise some great international conspiracy. But this isn't about conspiracy for me. It's about the fact that with someone like Sturgeon, the control has made her more popular. So the moment that she had an opportunity to go back this week to hosting the Omicron press conference and telling Scottish people what to do and not to work and to be careful socialising, she took it.
Dan, I did tell you not to raise her, that overstuffed little haggis. I mean, I said,
I just did it so that you would say that.
There's a warning sign on that. I mean, she is just, a total and utter control freak, and she's irrelevant in this debate. No sooner is she saying, we've got all these problems, we're going to close down things. We want more money from the central government to sort this out. Sort your own money out, sweetheart. And I don't think that there is some huge conspiracy. I think, as Daisy says, we know we've been at the heart of this kind of thing. People just react. Politicians react.
Exactly. But I agree with that. But it's about the reaction, though. It's about the reaction, because Sajid Javid came into the job, told us all that he was going to be a new broom and that he wasn't going to be hysterical and that we were, as a country, going to learn to live with COVID-19, Albie. And all of a sudden, the moment that he's in power, the slightest hint of something going even slightly wrong, and he goes mad. And actually, it's not often I praise Joe Biden, but I thought the US president's rhetoric around Omicron was so much more sensible than our government rhetoric, which was, don't panic, we're vaccinated, there's absolutely no need for lockdowns. And it was the first time I've ever actually thought, my God, I wish Biden was running the country just for 1 minute.
Not our country.
I totally agree with all of that. I think Biden's response to this was perfect. The response from this government, it was over the top.
Yeah, it was.
And, but let's look on the bright side as well.
There's no
this
bright
is
side.
actually one of the freest countries in Europe at the moment, compared to what's going on in Austria.
Well, that's true, because you've got mad Ursula von der Leyen saying that the EU needs to look at the mandation of the vaccine across the bloc. I mean, By the way, even you Ramonas must finally admit, thank God we're out. Thank God that madwoman is not in control of us anymore. I know, look, this could be the ultimate Christmas sleepover. The real-life Home Alone house will soon be available to rent on Airbnb. I'm here for this because Home Alone, one of my favourite movies of all time. And while people stay in the night won't have to ward off bandits, they can still set the booby traps, apparently, in celebration of the upcoming release of Home Sweet Home Alone. This is the new version of Home Alone. Buzz McAllister, Kevin's older brother, is hosting the overnight stay at the family's Chicago home, while the McAllisters are once again going away for the holidays. The only caveat is it's for one night only, but 4 guests will be able to enjoy their stay for only £19. It's the first time the mansion's opening up its doors for fans looking to recreate movie magic. Do you know what? Any time I watched Home Alone as a kid, I just thought, are American houses really that big? Why did they have such huge mansions, even working class families? It doesn't make sense to me.
Are American parents really that bad that they dump their toddler kids and go away and just leave them?
It's a fiction. It's a made-up story, Amanda.
No,
it's made
not.
up.
We had this rule in Australia when I was growing up in the bush, is that we were allowed to go and play all afternoon, all evening in the bush, but we had to remember where we tied up our little brother. So we had to, when we were playing Cowboys and Indians, because it was the littlest, okay? And so that was the only rule. I mean, my parents would not have left us for a second.
No, indeed, Amanda Patel, Albiam Ancona.
Is it not a true story?
Daisy McAndrew, it's not true. It's not true, no. But it's good. It's good. Now, next
You've ruined Amanda's Christmas.
Does the Sturgeon story end with the First Minister quitting? Darren Grimes says don't rule it out and he'll explore the possibility in The Outsider. And can you spot what's meant to be offensive in this clip of the Beatles?
We'll never get a chance to do it again. Sell cats and kittens. Are we going to...
Find out why the Fab Four's incredible new documentary has got snowflakes in a twist and shouting offensive. That's in the Media Buzz. Stay with us.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello. Things turning cold out there right now. Frosty for many by morning, and there is the potential for things to be a bit slippery as well. There are ice warnings issued and a little bit of snow in some spots. This area of low pressure is moving away, but it's opened the door to cold air driving south from the Arctic. And where we've got these little weather fronts, they will enhance the showers, and that combination of showers and cold air could lead to some icy conditions. Already across northern Scotland, we've got some snow showers. Down the eastern side of England, a mixture of rain, sleet and snow showers, and the potential also through parts of Wales. You could wake up to a covering here, maybe even into the Midlands, and later on through the night across the southwest of England. So we do have that ice warning in place as temperatures drop down close to freezing. Even in towns and cities, rural areas will be well below. And as well as that ice, there is the likelihood of some sleet and snow for southwest England, Wales and the eastern side of England and northern Scotland. Say snow even to lower levels in some locations. As we go through the day, that mixture of rain, sleet and snow will clear the southwest. The showers will ease along the east coast, although there will always be some. And across northern Scotland, it becomes dry. So for most, it's a dry, fine, sunny day tomorrow. But it will be cold, 3 or 4 degrees at best for most of us. At least the winds, though, will be a little lighter than that biting one that's been blowing through the day today. Then, during tomorrow evening, wet weather returns from the west, and as it hits the colder air, there'll be some snow for a time across Scotland, but even also further south over parts of England and Wales. It could, for a few hours, be a little bit of snow, mostly through the night, however. Perhaps early on Friday across East Anglia and the southeast, and quite quickly any snow will melt and turn back to rain. Quite a grey day then on Friday across the south. Rain clearing, but another spell of rain arriving in the southwest. Further north, though, Friday looks like a bright day with sunny spells and just a few showers, and turning milder across the south.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else. I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Darren Grimes is tonight's outsider. On Monday, Nicola Sturgeon, the wannabe Queen of Scots, spoke at the SNP's annual conference and again, of course, talked of independence.
I defy anyone to look at the broken, corrupt, self-serving Westminster system that we are currently part of and conclude that it provides a secure basis for the future of Scotland. So I would not be discharging my duty to the people of Scotland if I did not seek to keep the promise on which we were elected, to offer the people of Scotland the choice of a better future through independence. Next year, COVID permitting, as we emerge from winter into spring, the campaign to persuade a majority of people in Scotland that our future will be more secure as an independent nation will resume in earnest. In the course of next year, I will initiate the process necessary to enable a referendum before the end of 2023.
But Sturgeon has never been more out of touch with the Scottish people. A YouGov poll for The Times last week found that independence from the UK was 8th in the list of Scottish voters' concerns. Yet Sturgeon still banged on because she knows she has to, even though there's zero chance of a serious second referendum being granted, and given the SNP's cast iron promise, the last vote was once in a generation opportunity. Remember that? I do. As a result of her constant push for her beloved Indie Ref 2, speculation about her departure is growing, with many journalists now openly asking when she will step down. So, is this the beginning of the end for Nicola Sturgeon, joined tonight by the founder of Reasons UK, Darren Grimes. Darren, what do you know?
Well, isn't it extraordinary? I tell you, I wouldn't have been predicting this at the last election, at the last Holyrood election, where we were, I think, seeing Chairman Sturgeon at the height of her power there. But the People's Republic of Scotland doesn't seem to be so keen anymore on Nicky Sturgeon. She is, of course, coming up as being Scotland's longest serving First Minister, so she's not to be discounted. She's a savvy political operator, Dan. She knows that if the SNP fight another referendum and lose it, we'd see what we did in Quebec with the separatist cause effectively relegated to being a fringe movement that would get about as much attention, Dan, as Sky News' daily climate change show. But, I mean, I think what's going on here, it's quite easily explained. You played that clip there from the SNP conference in which she said she'd initiate the process for a referendum by 2023. I don't think that's actually going to happen here. And I want viewers to imagine how serious that is, because it's a bit like if UKIP won an election, right, and became the party of government, elected on a commitment to give the British people a referendum, and they had got into power and didn't give the people that referendum that they'd promised. The coalition of voters that got it elected would quickly fragment, and that's what I think we're going to see with the SNP, which let's not forget is a single issue party, right? It's a party whose entire raison d'etre, its reason for being, is to deliver Scottish isolationism.
That's certainly not delivering good government.
Exactly, and that's the crucial thing, right? That's the crucial thing, and that's why independence, as you said, Dan, is at number 8 on the list of priorities for voters, with less than a third of SNP supporters saying it's outright a key objective for them. And it's all of the things that you've got to start focusing on. I actually would describe Sturgeon's position as being a little bit like Maggie Thatcher's in her 10th or 11th year as Prime Minister, where you're actually noticing that on everything from this coalition that Nicola Sturgeon's in with the Scottish Green Party, for example, that's alienating those who work in North Sea oil and gas, Dan, working class people in rural areas who are wondering if they're going to be able to use their cars, which they depend upon, because there are massive rural parts of the Highlands, for example. I mean, she's heading to the left on economics, alienating voters there too. There's a drugs crisis in Scotland. There's a healthcare crisis in Scotland. There's a Glasgow hospital under review at the minute. The bulging budget deficit's a real problem. There's a severe education crisis, kids leaving school, unable to read and write. I could go on. Storm Arwen, right?
No, exactly. It's a mess. So, Darren, this is my theory. She lines up some job with her Liberal mates at the World Health Organization or the United Nations, and that's her get out. But what's your theory?
Well, look, I mean, she has been one of the biggest cheerleaders, hasn't she, for locking down harder and faster and all of the rest of it. I mean, who knows, right? Maybe she's so enamoured by the Brussels bureaucrats, maybe she wants to be one of them. She's talking about the fact that, you know, at some point with her husband, she might foster a child. So, you know, you can go and live quite comfortably in Brussels, as you well know. But who knows what's going on here? I just think that we're starting to see the beginning of the end, right? Where Sturgeon's desire to spin myths of independence referendums as being even remotely viable are starting to be exposed, and Sturgeon's popularity and polling numbers, you know, at one point she looked almost North Korean, she was so popular. But our dear leader, I think, Dan, ultimately now, and this is absolutely fascinating, is starting to fall out of favour with the Scottish electorate. Not a moment too soon.
We will stay on this story, of course, as I know you will. Darren Grimes saying he thinks it's the beginning of the end for Nicola Sturgeon, a fascinating outsider. Thank you, Darren. Coming up, does Trump have what it takes to beat Biden again? And could it even be a landslide? His former advisor, Seb Gorka, explains why the Dems should be afraid in Uncancelled. But next, after Sheffield residents blocked the renaming of streets honouring some of our greatest PMs, are we finally fighting back against the assault on our history? The media buzz and the front pages will be here in just a moment.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else. I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Time to return to the media buzz now. And more front pages have just been delivered. The Guardian reports that GPs may stop monitoring millions of patients due to the COVID booster jab drive. Ministers want to draft in GPs to help ramp up the booster scheme, which aims to offer a jab to every adult by the end of January. Also on the front page, the Women's Tennis Association has halted tournaments in China amid concerns over the safety of Chinese tennis star PENG SHUACONCERN. And I think they have to do that. I'm completely concerned about this woman. And do you trust the Chinese government? Hell no. Nativity plays are at risk in adult COVID. Oh, God, can we have some good news, please? This is the Yorkshire Post. Head teachers caught between a rock and a hard place over whether or not to cancel. Honestly, there's nothing hard about this. Don't cancel. Do not cancel. Do not ruin another Christmas for young kids, you idiots. Honestly, there's no tough decision when it comes to this. And the Daily Telegraph also follows the news that 2 more rounds of booster jabs have been ordered. It's hoped that enough vaccines have been brought to protect the whole country. Oh, good. So we're just going to jab for years and years and years to come. So much for 15 million jabs to freedom. Also on the front page is the news that Macron has privately called Boris Johnson a clown in charge of a circus. What a hypocrite. The French president reportedly claimed to aides that the Prime Minister admitted he had to cater to his public opinion by creating phony wars against the French to mask difficulties supposedly caused by Brexit. He's not a man you can do business with. My superstar panel back with me now, the Daily Mail star columnist Amanda Platel, Conservative commentator Albie Amankona, and the royal and political commentator Daisy McAndrew. Now, Sheffield residents, brilliant, brave Sheffield residents have fought back against woke campaigners who wanted to change a number of street names because they were associated with people involved in slavery in the empire. The city had opened up a consultation on possible changes. 3 of the streets targeted were Canning Street, because it was named after George Canning, the former Prime Minister who campaigned against freeing slaves. Gladstone Road for being named after ex-PM William, who had supported compensation for slave owners. And Peel Street, which was established in the memory of another ex-PM, Sir Robert Peel, whose father supported slavery, fearing its abolition would harm the cotton trade. The campaign calling for the name changes followed a report presented by the Race Equality Commission in Sheffield this year, claiming aspects of the city perpetuated racist, outdated and uncomfortable messages. But after residents fought back, forcing the local council to acknowledge the strong feeling and leave well enough alone, has Sheffield shown that our history can be preserved, Amanda Patel?
Dan, you wanted some good news and you've got it.
Yes, go Sheffield!
When I saw, go Sheffield, definitely. When I saw this, Canning Road, that's the road that is at the top of the street where I grew up. And then I did a little research because, you know, I'm very assiduous with these things. And I looked up, I was born in 7 Reynolds Road, Apple Creek. And Apple Creek doesn't kind of register with any slave trade or anything. But Reynolds, they were Vikings, 10th century Vikings, who raped and pillaged all of English people.
So that should be cancelled too.
Oh, look, I don't live there anymore. It's been mowed down. But you just think, I didn't know that. Had I known that growing up, I don't know, Daisy, what would you have thought? Would you have just thought, I do not want to live in a road that's named after a bunch of people who...
Or even be associated with anybody who lived there.
No.
But Daisy, you think these street names should have been erased?
No, not at all. No. I think that it's absolutely right that local people have full say over what should go on. And my concern, so I completely support Sheffield residents. My concern with this is often that one or two or three very, very loud, noisy voices completely, who have the energy to go to all the meetings, who have the energy to campaign the politicians and the councillors, overshadow what everyone else is thinking. So I just think all these decisions should be as devolved as possible, and that the people who maybe aren't speaking up, as in this case, are consulted. And so if the residents of Bristol want to change their names, and if that's a proper consultation, great. If the residents of Sheffield don't want to, also
but Albie, I would argue we don't even need to have a consultation on this. It's just ridiculous woke morons who are across the civil service looking for something to do. I mean, a street name is a street name. Don't change it.
I mean, when I read this, it perpetuates racist, outdated and uncomfortable views.
It's just a street name.
A street called Canning, Gladstone, Peel. Yeah. I don't even think most people know who they are, Dan, to be honest, which is actually the problem. What we need to do is teach our history accurately and properly, and we need to teach an inclusive history that teaches the history of the Commonwealth, the history of the Windrush generation, the history of the Industrial Revolution in the North, the history of this country in a full way that represents everyone, so we don't get ridiculous outcomes like this, where people who, quite frankly, don't know enough about history try and make decisions which have an impact on us all.
And when you think about Robert Peel, created the British police. That's why bobbies are called bobbies, named after Robert Peel. Peelers. I mean, that is what he's famous for.
We'll just have nothing left, and every street will end up being named after Stormzy or Dua Lipa because
It'll be,
name me one historic figure who doesn't have something that they did wrong.
Mandela 2, Mandela 3. That's like the only person. And the other thing, Daisy, is, I mean, this is great for now. That we've got residents fighting back. But in 20 years' time, when their kids have inherited their houses, and they might be a lot more woke, then it will be Greta Avenue.
It will. But we saw it happen, didn't we? Marcus Rashford house replaced J.K. Rowling house at the London School. Speaking of woke-topians, while lots of us have been loving the epic new Beatles documentary Get Back, oh my goodness, it's incredible. Some viewers have been baffled by the oversensitive trigger warning slapped on by streaming service Disney Plus. It's on. Here's just some of the footage they worry you'll find offensive. Can you work out what the issue might be?
We'll never get a chance to do it again. So, cats and kittens, what are we going to do?
Morning, everybody. Morning, camera. Another bright day. Morning, camera.
Beetle George Harrison, above, is due in court here today to answer assault charges. Harrison is accused of assaulting a photographer last May as he and Beatle Ringo Starr left a nightclub. Hey!
Love that shirt.
So, Beatles lovers tuning into the 8-hour documentary epic from Lord of the Rings director Peter Jackson were hit with this disclaimer about mature themes, explicit language, and smoking. Did Disney really fear that any self-respecting fan would be turned off by the Fab Four's love of nicotine when they were self-confessed massive drug users at the time? As far as I'm concerned, they should have just let it be, Amanda.
Indeed. And we don't actually know if they're just smoking backy or wacky backy, Dan, do we?
No, we don't.
I mean, we don't know if they're roll-ups that they've done, but, I mean, it was of the time, and I'm watching the series. I love it.
Oh, it's incredible. It's absolutely amazing. I mean...
I thought you'd be too young to be a Beatles fan.
No, I love the Beatles. My dad loved the Beatles, and my mum loved the Rolling Stones, actually, but I was always a Beatles man.
Me too.
And...
Or woman, yeah.
Yeah, one of my favourite interviews ever, actually, was when I went to interview Paul McCartney in Japan.
You did not interview Paul McCartney
in Japan.
You were such a name dropper.
And it was the it was the 60th anniversary of the famous Beatles concert at the Budokan, which is that incredible venue in the middle of Tokyo.
Yeah.
And he went back and performed all of the Beatles songs. And this documentary, Daisy, it's almost like you're there in the room with them. I can see why some people think it's like watching paint dry, but for me, I'm like, this is immersive.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
I really regret not watching it so far. I mean, obviously, it's not too late because my other half said, right, let's watch this Beatles documentary. And I said, oh, my God, it's 8 hours long.
Yeah.
You know, I can't do it. I can't do it. So he started watching it without me and just keeps shouting from the other room, this is amazing.
Yeah.
This is amazing. You
And
should be
Yoko
watching.
Ono.
Yeah.
She is
just sitting
always
in the corner.
there. So if Albie is John Lennon, Yoko Ono is there for every single moment of the process. She doesn't speak. She
like a
doesn't
statue.
contribute. She is just there. And to be honest, I've never been a Yoko hater, but I did think if I was Paul, I'd be a little bit annoyed about this because it's weird.
She's a bit creepy, isn't she?
Yeah, it's just a bit creepy.
Always there, you know.
Just a bit creepy.
She's just that person on this side of the sofa with dark
She doesn't
hair,
say anything.
who's a foreigner, who's just kind of a bit creepy. You think, why
on earth do you
the
mean?
hell is she
Who on
here?
earth do you mean?
Get rid of
Amanda
her.
Rattel, Albie, I'm going to Daisy McAndrew. Do stand by because coming up, my panel are going to nominate tonight's Greatest Britain and Union Jackass. I choose the winner, of course, though. And if Trump's mooted 2024 run comes to fruition, could he score a landslide victory against Biden? Former Trump advisor Seb Gorka weighs in and reacts to tonight's world-exclusive GB News interview in just 30 seconds. But first, let's take a look at what's coming up in tomorrow's show.
Coming up Thursday on Dan Wootton Tonight, as the man found guilty of killing British student Meredith Kercher walks free, the woman at the heart of one of the most infamous murder trials of the millennium, Amanda Knox, sits down for an exclusive interview to talk moving on, motherhood, reclaiming her identity, and whether doubts about her innocence will ever truly disappear. Plus, Robert Jobson reflects on a big week of change and controversy for the royal family. And I'll break down the day's top stories with my superstar panel, the former Tory London mayoral candidate Sean Bailey, Conservative commentator Dominique Samuels, and the journalist and author Amy Nicol. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Monday to Thursday on GB News.
Time now for Uncancelled. And this is where the world's top commentators speak out on controversial issues without the fear of the cancel culture sweeping the rest of the media. And after staring America into crisis after crisis from his current spot in the Oval Office, it's no wonder, is it, that Joe Biden's popularity is slumping. And he's certainly done nothing to convince Donald Trump that perhaps the best man didn't win.
You look at what's going on in Afghanistan with the withdrawal, which was, I think, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And you look at our borders, what's happening with our borders. You look at the cost of energy. We were energy independent, and we no longer are. You look at so many different things. You and I could talk all day.
Yeah.
And it's a shame what's happened to the United States. It's at the lowest point it's ever been at. I don't think it's ever been in a position like this. We're not respected anymore.
If Trump does run for the White House again, and he certainly gave the strongest indication yet in tonight's interview that he will, could we see an extraordinary reversal of 2020 with Biden looking at a historic loss against his old nemesis? Well, a key figure in Trump's inner circle, his former advisor and host of the podcast American First, Sebastian Gorka, thinks so. Sebastian, it was a fascinating interview between Nigel Farage and Donald Trump on GB News tonight. And it really did feel like, Sebastian, that Donald was laying out his battle plan and that he seriously does intend to run for the presidency again.
Well, absolutely. Congrats to you, GB News, and Nigel for that exclusive. By the way, I dialed in a little bit early. I've been watching your show. Dan, you have far too much fun on GB News, and there's clearly there's a reason why you guys are crushing it every single day. Look, I saw the president recently in New York. Before I went to see him, I told everybody on my radio show I give it a 95% chance that he's running.
95%.
After I went to speak with him, I told, oh yeah, but hang on. After I went to see him, I said 99.9%. There's only one thing that will stop him if we don't crush the Democrats in the midterm elections next year, because he can't be at the mercy of impeachment again. He has to have the House and the Senate behind him. But if you look at the disastrous last 11 months for the Biden administration, we will take the Senate, we will take the House, and then as far as I am concerned, my old boss is going to stroll back into the West Wing.
Okay, but that's why 2022, because he mentioned it with Nigel, that's why 2022 is so important for him, because he has to secure the House, has to secure the Senate.
Right. Yeah, think about how deranged the Democrats have become. this administration has allowed 2 million illegal immigrants to cross the border since the inauguration of Joe Biden. Petrol prices are skyrocketing. We have the highest inflation, 6%, since the 1990s. The administration is underwater. It's first time ever we've seen a president in less than one calendar year hit the low 40% in popularity and approval ratings, as his vice president, the cackling Kamala, is in the 20 percentile of popularity for her job approval. So look, we have to maintain that for the next year, because we have to secure the Senate and the House, because these people were so deranged. Just a little reminder. Not only did they try to impeach him and fail to prosecute him on one trumped-up, spurious Russia allegation, they tried to impeach him, Dan, after he left office. I mean, this is the insanity. They tried to remove the president of the United States after he left the White House. So we can't have that again. He's got to have 4 years of unfettered swamp draining, and that's why he will run as soon as we take the Senate and the House.
Now, Sebastian, you know I don't believe in individual polls, but if you look at the trend of the polls in all of the swing states, Trump is crushing Biden. It's not even a competition. So how do you think the president will react to that? Is it likely he's only going to run for one term?
Well, he has to. He's constitutionally limited. You can't, if you've already served one term as president, you only get one more bite at the apple, which is Biden. Fabulous, which means...
Sorry, Sebastian, I mean Biden. I mean, will Biden not run again? Yeah. Sorry for not making myself...
No, look, he made a statement, a kind of half-hearted statement this week about, well, yes, I'm running. There's no way he's running. If you look at he has become an albatross around the neck of the Democrat Party. The only big problem is that the person who would replace him is even more unpopular. And what we had occurred 10 days ago, this is shocking. This is from one of the most sober political journalists on Capitol Hill for Fox News. He told us that he has seen emails from inside the Democrat Party telling the members on Capitol Hill in Congress to brush up on the procedure for replacing an incumbent vice president. That's how desperate they are. They're already shuffling the deck chairs on the Titanic because they know this old codger can't be reelected, and they know the vice president is even more disastrous. So they might try and change the whole palette for 2024. But if the economy keeps sinking, if the border stays open, it doesn't matter what they do. This is a complete cock-up.
Well, it did make me laugh, Sebastian, when I read, and this clearly was something that had come from allies of Kamala Harris, touting a potential ticket of Harris and Mayor Pete, Pete Buttigieg. And I just thought, gosh, if that was the ticket, Trump's going to run, isn't he? I mean, that's the dream ticket for Trump.
You got to laugh, because all it indicates is that these people they're such in an ironclad, Kevlar-coated bubble. They have no idea what the average American thinks of these people. That we have one person, the cackler, who cannot give a straight answer without nervous giggles. And then you have the guy. Just one little factoid for you guys. We have a supply chain crisis right now in America. We have 300,000 shipping containers sitting on supercargo tankers off the coast of LA because we don't have people to unpack them. We don't have the longshoremen to unpack them. Who's the Secretary of Transport? Mayor Pete Buttigieg. And he disappears for a 3-month paternity leave. I'm sorry, Pete, you didn't squeeze that baby out of your tummy, and neither did your quote-unquote husband. So the idea that he disappears, doesn't tell anybody, and then there's this super crisis, it's a farce. It's like Monty Python, Dan.
Well, I'm sorry, this isn't going to be a popular view, but I don't think a politician should be taking paternity leave. I think it's completely outrageous. Yeah, I do. But
not only outrageous, it's outrageous. It's outrageous when you're the Secretary of Transport and we've got the biggest supply chain crisis since Carter. And let's give Carter his due. It only took Carter 4 years to screw up the economy. This has been 11 months, Dan.
I know, but it's interesting, isn't it, Sebastian? The woke, they just don't like working, do they? They're not into working. They seem to want to find excuses not to work. And I think what people saw tonight is that Trump is very determined and he's prepared to work hard. Some people say he's too old, Sebastian. What would you say to them?
Let me tell you, as former strategist to the president, his former deputy in the White House, he's got 24 years on me, okay? I was 48 when I joined the administration. He was 72. Dude, I couldn't keep up with him. Well, people always ask me, who's really tweeting at 4 a.m. on the president's account? I said, it's not me, it's him. Donald Trump, he doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke, sleeps 2.5 hours a night. He's like Maggie Thatcher. The guy is a force of nature. And look at photographs of him at the beginning of his tenure, at the end. Most presidents, they go gray. Look at Obama, look at Bush. They age about 20 years. He's like Benjamin Button.
And is it all of his own hair? Is it all of his own hair? Yes. Because Amanda Patel on our panel earlier was trying to say he's losing his hair, and I thought it looked fine. Okay, good. From the horse's mouth, Sebastian Gorka, uncancelable, speaking again very soon. Sebastian, time to reveal today's greatest Britain and Union Jackass. Now my superstar panel back. Daisy McAndrew, Albie Ancona, and Amanda Patel. See, Amanda? It's his own hair. It's Trump's own hair.
Not his own hair, Dan. Get over it.
I'm sorry, Sebastian Gorka just, cleared that up. Amanda, let's start with you. Who's your greatest Britain nominee?
Okay, brace yourself, Dan. It is Keir Starmer this week.
Really? The leader of no opposition. What's he done?
The leader of the opposition, of Her Majesty's opposition, and for his fantastic way that he conducted this reshuffle when his deputy, who he cannot deselect, was giving a speech about whinging on about something. Angela Rayner, half woman, half hairdo, didn't know anything about it, and he purged the Corbynistas out of his shadow cabinet. Well done, Keir.
Okay. Albie Ancona, your nomination.
My greatest Britain honorary Brit this week, it's a man called Jerome Horwitz, who was a scientist who founded the first antiretroviral drugs to treat HIV. And today is, of course, World AIDS Day, where we celebrate the progress that we've made in all of the time since this awful disease began. It's killed over 36 million people globally. COVID's killed just over 5. So that's the scale of disease and death that this has caused. And my life would be very different had Jerome Horwitz not created that drug, and I think he's a fantastic man for doing so.
Daisy
McAndrew. This, but well done. That's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant.
Lovely.
It's very, very
Sorry, back to our box.
So, get back in your box, Daisy. Amanda, Daisy, your nomination.
Mine is a footballer this week, Gabriel, who is an Arsenal footballer. The case, he was attacked. He was followed back to his home by muggers, well, worse than muggers, attackers last summer, but this is going on at the moment, court case going on at the moment, and he fought back, and these guys were incredibly violent, and he showed, I think, great bravery and fought back, and the guy had a scuffle, and the guy dropped his hat, and they've caught him with DNA, so hooray for him.
Good on him, but the winner has to be, after that beautiful, impassioned little soliloquy, Jerome Horowitz. So well done, Albie Ancona, today's greatest Britain. Let's move on to Union Jackass nominations. Amanda Patel, you've got a controversial one.
No, it's not controversial. It's Amul Rajan, the guy who presented the Princes and
So we both took part in this.
We both took part in it. I'm not going to speak for you, Dan, but I felt conned by...
Did you?
Yeah, I was asked to do it 6 months ago. It was a different brief to what it ended up being. And I just thought that, this guy wears more diamonds than Liz Taylor. And the only difference is his are all fake, just like I think he is a fake. He's got the sharpest elbows in the BBC. He's so politically correct. And I think that documentary was biased towards my old mate, Megan.
Interesting. Well, look, I didn't feel like I was misled by Amul, but I will say it would have been nice for it to have a little bit more about the BBC and Martin Bashir. 2.5 minutes.
I
mean, come on.
Rubbish. Yeah.
That was a bit ridiculous, wasn't it? Daisy, your Union Jackass nomination. This is also controversial.
Well, it's controversial because this is a man I like very, very much.
Likewise.
I'm a big fan of Nick Ferrari's.
Well, look, let's see what he did, Daisy, and then I'll get you to react off the back.
If it takes time now, the time to find people, great. Let's start. Let's never go with €100. Make it £100, right? And it starts. And I tell you what, it's not 60 above. Let's make it 40 and above, starting on Monday. Okay. Now, if we come round, knock on the door, and you can show on your phone, or you've got a letter or something, you've got an appointment, that's fine. But if you willfully oppose now, you're 40 and above, £100 fine in December, £100 fine in January, £200 in February, £300 in March. By the end of the year, you'll be spending about £1,000, and that might cut through your ignorance. Well, it's an idea, isn't it? I don't know what you think.
Daisy, quick line why you're angry about that.
No, well, I mean, fining people for deciding not to take up the booster is ridiculous.
No,
we
wrong.
talked about
It's
how we're
completely
going
wrong.
to people's heads. That is crazy.
Albie and Ancona, your Union Jackass nomination.
My Union Jackass this week is Emmanuel Macron.
Do you know what? You don't have to say any more. He's won. He's won. That's it. I'm done. You've got the double. Of course he's the Union Jackass, Macron. You don't need to sell it to me at all. Amanda Patel, Albie Ancona, Daisy McAndrew, a brilliant superstar panel. I'm back tomorrow at 9. Headliners is next, though. Thank you so much for your company tonight. It was a brilliant coup for GB News. Good night.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello. Things turning cold out there right now. Frosty for many by morning, and there is the potential for things to be a bit slippery as well. There are ice warnings issued and a little bit of snow in some spots. This area of low pressure is moving away, but it's opened the door to cold air driving south from the Arctic. And where we've got these little weather fronts, they will enhance the showers, and that combination of showers and cold air could lead to some icy conditions. Already across northern Scotland, we've got some snow showers. Down the eastern side of England, a mixture of rain, sleet and snow showers, and the potential also through parts of Wales. You could wake up to a covering here, maybe even into the Midlands, and later on through the night across the southwest of England. So we do have that ice warning in place as temperatures drop down close to freezing, even in towns and cities. Rural areas will be well below. And as well as that ice, there is the likelihood of some sleet and snow for southwest England, Wales and the eastern side of England and northern Scotland. Say snow even to lower levels in some locations. As we go through the day, that mixture of rain, sleet and snow will clear the southwest. The showers will ease along the east coast, although there'll always be some. And across northern Scotland, it becomes dry. So for most, it's a dry, fine, sunny day tomorrow. But it will be cold, 3 or 4 degrees at best for most of us. At least the winds, though, will be a little lighter than that biting one that's been blowing through the day today. Then, during tomorrow evening, wet weather returns from the west, and as it hits the colder air, there'll be some snow for a time across Scotland, but even also further south over parts of England and Wales. It could, for a few hours, be a little bit of snow, mostly through the night, however. Perhaps early on Friday across East Anglia and the southeast, and quite quickly any snow will melt and turn back to rain. Quite a grey day then on Friday across the south. Rain clearing, but another spell of rain arriving in the southwest. Further north, though, Friday looks like a bright day with sunny spells and just a few showers, and turning milder across the south.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programs